Okay.
All right. Well, welcome to the Sovereign Citizen Freedom Seeker Human Being meeting. I struggled for a name for this group. I don't struggle very hard. We don't really need one. But we do need to declare a purpose of getting together. My name is Bob Hurt. I've lived in the Clearwater area for 20-something years. I used to be in the computer industry. Now I do nothing for a living, but I do an awful lot of activist-related activities. Things that I couldn't do when I worked in the computer industry for all my adult life. I simply couldn't because I had other focuses. So it doesn't surprise me that we don't have a whole lot of people get involved in activism-type activities because they have a family, they have a job, they have these other obligations and pressing issues. But what drives them here is personal problems with government. And so one of our purposes is to help one another with these problems, to help in the respect that we support government honesty and integrity of people who are government employees. All we really want them to do is to obey their loyalty oaths. All right, so why would we get together? We get together to make our lives make a difference so that we can begin to matter to our family and friends in a way that we haven't succeeded so well in the past. You know, in a way, this is kind of fills a function that churches could fill if they only did. But they've been driven out of political activism by government because they're dangerous to certain people's political interests. So let me go over a few notes that I made as regards the function of this activity right now. Why do we meet? We meet to socialize, to learn, to support one another, and to give one another and share an orientation of our place in this universe, our place on this planet, and our function as Americans, and to plan both political and legal action. Political and legal action. Why we do this is because we'd like to avoid bloodshed in our efforts to make our people in the government conform with the oaths that they swore to support the constitutions. When people in government get out of line and stop doing that, they become tyrants, despots, or oligarchs. And when they, to the extent they become oligarchs, we call them a lot of times the good old boys network, because they establish public policies often of abusing people simply to pursue their own ambitions without respect to who they hurt, but not necessarily intentionally to hurt anybody. They just want to fatten their wallets and, you know, have a good life. So it's up to us. And in Texas, we had this adage called, whoever's closest to the snake, grab a stick and whack it. I'm going to give you a demonstration tonight, a simple demonstration of how you can do this, how you can be a whacker that makes a difference, and at the same time to improve your own quality of life as Americans. That doesn't necessarily mean make yourself more financially fit or find a better mate or get a better job. It simply means to be able to pursue all of those things in an environment that's healthy for such a pursuit. And the present environment, as many will attest, doesn't seem terribly healthy. We have, for example, one of our attendees got pulled out of his car by policemen and beaten until he suffered brain damage. He's had to have several brain operations for driving. And that's it. Not for driving badly, not for doing bad U-turns, not for any other reason except he's a black man driving a nice car down a highway in an area where the cops tended to be a little prejudiced, although they would never admit it. So really, he got arrested and beaten up and charged with criminal behavior for driving while black, but the ticket said something else. And all of us face similar persecution from time to time, depending on the circumstances we're in. We never know when our numbers is going to be up next. You get stopped at a traffic stop and you've been a political activist, you put yourself at certain risk. If the cops know about you and don't like you, they might take a little piece of crack cocaine and toss it in your window. The next thing you know, you're in handcuffs being carted off to jail, and your life becomes a shambles. So this is not without its risks. To stand up and be counted, to make your life make a difference politically, isn't simply showing up at the polls and casting a vote for somebody who is identical to his opponent for all practical purposes. All right, what do we do as we come together in these activities? Number one is we handle our business first. If there are business issues related to the group, we take care of them quickly and get it over with. Number two, we will have a presentation. Somebody will guide this group in some respect or another through a learning activity or through a workshop, and workshops will comprise a good part of what we do so that we will actually produce a result that can be measured and that will have an impact. We have discussion and we organize. So those are the four fundamental functions that we have as this group. That's what we do. Okay. That organization can imply work outside outside our meeting, because this is, you know, being an American patriot, if you want to call it that, implies certain responsibilities that extend beyond simply sitting together. For example, if you go to church, I'm sure your preacher has told you, you don't stop being a Christian or whatever you are when you leave the church building. You have obligations outside that to show leadership in your community, to set a good example by the way you live, and not to duke it out in the street, but to solve your problems through what? Legal and political process or administrative process. Okay, here's what we don't do. We don't do partisan politics, because that's divisive. It causes us to have reasons to dispute with one another in a negative way that doesn't produce a beneficial result. We do, however, do nonpartisan politics. We discuss the supreme political issue of remaining loyal, or having our people in government remain loyal to their Constitution oaths. All of them, every public employee, every school teacher, every university professor, every mailman, every dog catcher, every judge has sworn at least one oath to support the Constitution of Florida and of the United States. So what we will do is encourage people to hold those folks accountable for such oaths. We also do not put the group in harm's way. We don't do things or say things that are destructive and intrinsically dangerous. We don't foment riot or rebellion without any commonsensical purpose or any hope of any opportunity of success. We try to follow our obligations to use the political and legal system and administrative process to cure the problem, so we won't have to resort to guns and beer bottles and knives and hatchets and nuclear bombs. Okay? What we teach individual and group responsibility. And I would say that each of us, all of these things I don't really have to say, because you're already this way. You're people with a conscience, an American conscience. You know the difference between right and wrong generally, but there are nuances of it that you might need a little improvement in. Well, these are the things that we teach. We teach people to take responsibility. If there's a snake over there by you, you pick up the stick and whack it. Don't expect somebody else to do it unless you're so handicapped you can't handle a stick. Okay? This is individual responsibility. And you realize that if you're dealing with a great big giant snake, you don't do it by yourself. Because doing it by yourself means you're going to get snake bit really bad and swallowed. Then you won't be able to do anything. So our function then, as things that we teach, is to teach each other and those around us in our community how to become politically, legally, and administratively active, and how to take responsibility and not rely upon somebody else to do something we ought to do ourselves. We teach the law and the Constitution, which means we have to learn it. And each of us should, from time to time, deliver a presentation where we take a legal subject and we explain that subject to our fellows here in this room. We may not always have this room as a venue, but if people like a better one, we can pick a better one. Okay. We also teach the rules of court, because since the courts are the only items that provide us an opportunity for resolving our issues, let's say, peaceably, and since the courts will enforce their orders with bailiffs and the law enforcers, well, guess what? We can rely upon the courts to enforce the resolution of a dispute. That's their main value to society. And so we're going to teach how to use the courts through litigation and also through obeying the rules of legal, civil, and criminal, and family, and various other laws of procedure, as well as the rules of evidence. We will, from time to time, examine court rulings as they apply to the various issues we talk about. Because why? Let me ask you this. Who can tell me what the right to freedom of speech means? Anybody here? What's the freedom of speech mean? What's that right mean? Anybody?
Freedom of the press is one.
Okay, so you can print something and distribute it around to people. What else?
Be able to speak our minds.
Exactly.
Be able to hold our representatives accountable for what they're doing. I'll be able to speak out against it.
Can you sing? Is it okay to sing?
Oh, absolutely.
It's freedom of expression. So, freedom of worship. All of these are these things that have to do with the First Amendment. Well, guess what? If you want to know what it really means under certain circumstances, where do you go to find out? Well, first you read the First Amendment. And then what's the next thing you read? You read the court rulings on court cases that came before the Supreme Court and the circuit courts of the United States on the issue of freedom of speech. If the court said it means this and that under these circumstances, that's what it means, even if we're wrong. So, I mean, even if it's wrong. And by the way, the Supreme Court panel courts don't always agree with one another. What does that mean? That means they don't know the law. At least less than half of them don't know it. And so that ought to be kind of scary. But what it really means is this is a little bit of a moving target. We're in an evolving civilization, and they do their best. It's not going to be perfect. There will be eggs broken in the making of this omelet we call America. And we got broken eggs sitting here, so you know what that's like. Hey, William,
nice to meet you.
Come on in. Good to see you, man.
Hey, Bob, how you doing, man? Good. See you.
Make yourself comfortable.
All right.
I'm just going over like our ambitions here, and I will hand you this paper so you get to see it.
What's up, handsome? How you doing? Oh, you can see what's it, Bob?
Pardon? Yeah, we're doing it.
Oh, my God.
That's okay. We're fine. We're fine. We also teach political action in addition to the court rulings. Court rules, court rulings, the law of political action. We teach how to take benign but effective political action so that you're not operating by yourself. And I'm going to explain what this really means in some detail. We teach administrative process, so we learn how to write letters, make phone calls, and put pressure on people simply by asking them to do the right thing, by telling them what we want, what we expect, and asking them to do it, and following up and making sure they did it, and check on it. And we do this as a group, not individually or as a group. We learn this administrative process. And we also learn how to settle our issues with other people by writing to them and asking them for a solution. And finally, we teach how to solve personal problems. Each person here has probably suffered in some way or another in a dispute with government. If you have not ever had a dispute with government and suffered as a consequence, raise your hand. So now we see the lack of hands raised proves a point. Each of us is a sufferer. Each of us recognizes an injury we have suffered, and it could be because of our own ignorance, our own lack of obeying or knowing the timing, understanding the process to follow and things like that. We're going to remedy a lot of this because we are going to learn how to go about figuring out how to become effective in dealing with government. That's what we're going to teach here. Each one of us is going to become a teacher. In our personal and private lives, when we leave this room, we're going to take with us the things that we learn and do our best to convey them gently and lovingly but persuasively to the people around us so that they will not become patriot mythmongers. What's a patriot mythmonger? Well, we know what a monger is. That's somebody that sells things. So what's a patriot myth? Well, we know what a myth is. That's something that isn't true, but people talk about it as though it is. Well, what's a patriot? Somebody who wants to... Come on in.
I'm Dan from ABC.
You are?
Dan Harris.
Hi, Dan Harris. Come on in.
Hi, everybody. How's it going?
Yeah. Well, it's a pleasure to see you.
What? Thanks for...
Would you like to take a seat, or do you
Sure.
want to take
This is
the
Dan
podium?
Lieberman.
How are you?
Hi,
You've
good to
met
see you.
Dan, yes.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody.
Would you like to take a seat, or would you like to stand, or would
Oh,
you
I'd
like
love to take a seat. Sure.
Would
yeah.
you want to deliver an oratory?
I have no oratory in me. I'll sit right... Or somebody's in here.
That's all sitting there.
Somebody's all right. I'll just sit right here.
Right, make yourselves at home.
Our camera crew just coming in, bring a few things in. Thanks for having us. It's great.
Yeah, so make yourself comfortable wherever you'd like.
Okay.
That thing right there is my seat, so you can sit in it, or I'll just move this out of the way.
Well, I'm going to kind of stand here and film a little bit and listen to you guys.
Okay. So what I have done, I have given an introduction to the why and the wherefore of our coming together. It has to do with making our lives as Americans make a difference to our communities and to our government and to our families. We're here to become involved with one another in the process of learning and then doing based on what we learn. These things that we learn have to do with political activism, non-partisan. They have to do with legal activism, learning to use the courts and the legal process. And they have to do with administrative process, which is personal activism that has to do with dealing with issues and with problems by writing letters and by communicating on the telephone with people in government to get their cooperation. All right, so I'd like to clear the air of a question that may pervade in some people's minds about why we really are here. There are questions about what we should call ourselves. Are we sovereign citizens? Are we simply freedom seekers? Hi, come on in. Just find a seat, make yourself comfortable, and the waitress will be around soon. Whatever we wish to call ourselves, our purpose for coming together is to become educated ourselves, to become motivated to use the things we have learned as tools to create a better civilization on a personal and individual level, without hostility, without unlawful physical force, by the power of persuasion, rhetoric, reason, common sense, and letting people know what we expect, need, and want from them. These are the exact things that every parent teaches a child, and I have no clue why we should think that we should stop doing that when we become adults. However, we know from history, come on in.
Hello.
Good to see you.
Nice to see you all.
We know from history that political action of the mild sort fails to produce a benign result. On many occasions, people will suffer continuous abuse from a government or from actors in government. It is, we have to do this. We have to learn and understand what it means when somebody in government, acting under color of law, pretending that he is a lawful government person and that he has authority to do the things he does, abuses people and expects to be able to get away with it. Our purpose in understanding this is to see the limit of our personal authority and physically denying a power to people in government. Notice I say people in government and not government. The people in government are not the government. The government is written on a piece of paper. What's the paper called?
Constitution.
Unanimously. What's it called?
Constitution.
Exactly. The piece of paper is the government. Get it understood. The people who occupy positions of authority and power in the government, in other words, government public employees, they can do right or they can do wrong. What do we have in place to ensure they will do right? Anybody know? Let me ask you this. How many of you have ever said in your life, I will support the Constitution of the United States? How many? Raise your hand if you ever said this. Okay, how many of you who didn't raise your hand are registered voters? None. So guess what? Every registered voter in Florida has to swear such an oath.
Exactly.
Okay?
Yeah.
Every military employee, every soldier, sailor, marine, and airman has to swear this oath. Every political officer has to. Every school teacher. The point I make here in saying this is, how do you hold them accountable to obey that oath? Well, guess what? You don't necessarily have to deal with an entire government when tyrants are only a few people or only one person. You only have to deal with that one person. Unfortunately, he will probably have a support group which will resist your efforts to correct his behavior. We will learn how in these meetings to deal with that situation and to deal with it peaceably and effectively. We'll learn how to use the legal process, the political process, the fourth estate, which is the press, and administrative process to deal with people in government who have exhibited tyrannical behavior. Now, I would like to point out to you that if a person in government is a tyrant, that simply means one and only one thing. He simply has not obeyed his loyalty oath. He has departed from the restrictions the Constitution and the laws of the United States or the state have imposed upon his behavior. When a person that has obligations in government to do a particular job departs from this, yes?
It's probably going to be easier for them to film you if you're at the front of the room.
Pardon me?
They're kind of,
You want me to go to the front?
I think it's
Where's the
easier
front?
for people right there.
Sure, I'll go.
It's a little narrow.
You're getting an ear rape?
Oh no, it's a little narrow here. So
I
if you go to the front
apologize.
of the room.
Let me go down here to make it more comfortable for everybody, and I'll speak with a booming voice. Whoops.
It's funny, the videographers didn't direct that. Are you a videographer?
Would you rather that I stand at the other end or this end?
The logistics are much better that way, I believe.
She's a natural born producer, but she's.
Hey, I've set up rooms and done events, so I understand. And that way they can move back, forward. So the eye.
Okay. What we have done, and by we I mean me, I have invited a group of people, actually a lot of individual people, to come to this meeting in order to organize, to make a presence, and to let it be known to one another that we choose to associate and to follow these objectives that I've written to you, that I've read to you. Now, how many of you feel like, at first blush, this program makes sense? If you support this, hand in the air. If you don't support it, feel free to raise your hand now. Okay, so I take that to mean this sounds like a practical method to take for performing this function. We are Americans. We have an obligation to stand up and learn about our Constitution and our laws, and we have an obligation to share this with people in our community because they are not here. They are not learning the law and court procedure, the rules of administrative process and political organizing and activism. They don't learn any of that in school unless they take specific university courses for that purpose. So as a consequence, they don't know what we are going to learn. They won't have our personal skills and perspective, and they will go astray. They will think that because it's okay to engage in militia forming and in training to become competent with weaponry of war, that therefore they need to use those weapons as soon as they can. We don't want them to believe such a folly. It's pointless, it's impertinent, and for the most part insane. It's uneducated. It does not make sense. It is not the solution to the problem. Why do I say this? Yes, ma'am. Yes.
They put their guns down too.
No, that's not true.
It is true, Bob.
No, it really isn't true.
If you're going to set up and be nonviolent, it's not going to get you anywhere.
No, wait a minute. I'm not arguing with you. In essence, I am saying that we're talking about two different issues. The function of government is to use, as necessary, physical force to do what?
To intimidate the masses of people.
No. The purpose of intimidating the mass of people is what?
Control.
To implement the Constitution. To create and maintain a structure of government. To keep reasonable order in society so that people are not driving 100 miles an hour in a little neighborhood. To keep some kind of order in the society so that everybody can exercise as much liberty as possible without infringing on the liberty of others. That's a free society. It is a society where freedom has an extreme limit, and that limit is where it begins to hurt other people. We believe in responsible liberty, not irresponsible liberty. And the insurance for that responsibility comes about as a function of law enforcement and peace conservation. Every circuit court and every county court judge, every sheriff and every sheriff's deputy in Florida is a conservator of the peace. His job is to make it possible for you and I to go about our daily business without being interfered with by thugs, brigands, telemarketers, oops. We even have laws against that. Sorry. I'm sorry, William.
Shut up, Bob. Don't call my name out in this meeting.
Oh, I'm sorry. George. Oh, there's a George in here, isn't there? Okay. Look, Fred, I didn't mean anything by that. I was just teasing you about that.
Great.
But law enforcement must follow the same rules, and the courts must follow the same rules.
They don't follow the same rules.
And that's why a lot of us are here, because we've been basically shafted by law enforcement.
Right. Law enforcers have rules to follow, and they are not the same rules that we have. Law enforcers are peace officers. They have been carefully selected and trained to perform their functions. Sometimes they make mistakes. Sometimes they have a bad hair day. They get out of line and do a wrong thing in the name of, I'm a cop. they might stop somebody for driving while black
Or white.
and accuse him of a U-turn, which he didn't make. They might drag him out of the car and beat him half to death. It happens. Should we set fire to the police station if this happens? Yeah, I'll tell you the problem with that. The problem is, everybody that's looking at the situation won't know that's why we set fire to it. They'll think we're idiots. And you can count on the press, the Fourth Estate, to tell them we're idiots. Well, let's say to imply we're idiots. So therefore, it would be foolish to burn the police station up because one of the cops went crazy that day and did some completely horrible criminal act. What we really should do, that's mine, I apologize.
You're about to put it on fire.
I sincerely apologize for that.
Break time.
Okay.
Can you get around?
It is our responsibility to know what action to take when this happens. Now look, if a policeman does this, and he does it in association with a colleague, and he gets support by the police chief, and the state attorney refuses to bring charges against him, or to even do an investigation,
Which is
we
often the
have,
problem.
pardon me,
Which is often the problem.
Thank you.
say that one more time.
Which is often the problem.
It often is the problem. Well, let's say it becomes a problem sometimes. And as a consequence of this, we who have an education on this subject need to know how to work together to create an impression of incipient potential physical force which the police will respect. You don't do that by dragging out guns and shooting them, by setting fire to their police station. You do that through lawsuits, taking it to federal court, 18 U.S.C. 241, 242, conspiracy to deprive one of their constitutional rights. It's a federal crime. You file criminal complaints against them. You take the matter to another court. You talk to the statewide prosecutor and say, look at what's going on down here that the local state attorney is not paying attention to. If the judge becomes crooked in this case, you write letters to the impeachment subcommittee of the House Committee on the Judiciary to get that judge impeached. You support legislation like Senate Bill Francis, what's that Senate bill?
Oh,
1524.
SB 1524.
Senate Bill 1524 is right now pushing its way through the legislature of Florida. What is it? It is a statement that the Judicial Qualification Commission will get 5 new members to it from the citizenry, not from the court, not from the bar. That judges will lose their judicial immunity for tortious conduct. They won't be able to abuse people from the bench and expect to get away with it. Right now they can.
That's the first in the nation,
Now,
that bill.
what we need to do is we need to keep all this in perspective and realize that what we think it seems like and that our gut level knee-jerk reaction needs to be moderated by common sense, by diplomacy, education, and expecting good from other people whenever possible. Because that cop who did that horrible behavior made all the other cops in that department look bad. Because they didn't tar and feather him and run him out. Guess what? There should have been an internal affairs investigation against that cop. And you and you and you and you and me and me, we should get together and support somebody who gets abused like this by going to different people in government and make it a big blown up mess that they can't sweep under the carpet. That's political action. That's what we need to do. William, Fred, you are right. You're right. they have to, so to speak, lay their guns down first, which means they have to obey the law. And most of all, obey their oaths of loyalty to support the Constitution of Florida and of the United States. Who are the oath enforcers, if not us? Let me point something out. I wrote a paper, because I told you that I was going to explain to you how to become one who grabs a stick and whacks that snake. I'm a snake whacker. And if you want to be a snake whacker too, just listen to what I have to say and try to find your own opportunities to do this. And for all of you, feel free to call me and let's discuss it. Because we can devise a strategy to work together or in small groups of 2 or 3 people to deal with almost any situation that comes up. Here's what I did. In 2006, I attended a court hearing for a friend. As a court watcher, all of us need to become familiar with what that means and how to do it, and do it. There were 11 of us in the courtroom, and we watched a judge twice stomp this guy's constitutional rights. I won't go into the details for the sake of brevity. I wondered, does this judge have a loyalty oath? He's a senior judge. He's an old fellow. He looks like a granddaddy. I liked him. Looked good to me. I'd like to have a granddaddy like him. We could have a great time talking about things like the law. Well, guess what? I thought I'd better look and see if he even swore a loyalty oath, so I went looking. And I uncovered a bag of worms that's unbelievable. I discovered, as a result of pulling a loyalty oath after loyalty oath from different characters, something that this particular incident characterizes that I'll tell you now. Jeb Bush's first term loyalty oath had his signature where the notary should sign it and no notary signature on the document. What do you think? Was that a lawfully valid document?
No.
Did he qualify for office if he did not have his loyalty oath in place?
No.
How do you know? Did you read the law on this? Do you think the law makes an exception?
876 or something like that?
Pardon?
Is 876 required?
Exactly. 876.05 is one of the laws. In fact, a judge has to swear 6 oaths to become a judge. Did you know that? Do you know what those 6 are? I discovered this in my process of determining, did he break the law by not having an oath? Was his action in the court that day even lawful? Did he even have the authority under a quo warranto concept to issue any ruling whatsoever, even to conduct a proceeding? Well, the answer is, let me tell you what I found out. I found out that Jeb Bush's first oath had no jurat on it. The jurat is where a notary signs it to administer the oath. And it also, the second oath for the second term, it didn't even have a jurat place on it. There was no jurat form on the document for a notary to sign it. I thought to myself, well, obviously the state of Florida, the legislature changed the law. Here before the year 2000, I found all these loyalty oaths with jurats on them, and some of them were signed and some of them weren't. Then I found, after the year 2000, a bunch of oaths for different kind of people that had no jurat imprinted on it whatsoever, and therefore no notary signature. So surely the government changed the law. Well, guess what? I looked and found no such change. Then I slapped my forehead and said, oh my Lord, what did I just find out? Since the year 2000, not a single elected official in the state of Florida validly held office. Not one. Well, if I'd have had false teeth, I would have dropped my upper plate. I was astonished. How could this ridiculous situation happen? Does the loyalty oath mean anything, or doesn't it? Apparently not. So I thought, well, maybe there's no law that enforces a refusal or failure to swear a loyalty oath, and lo and behold, I found there is a law that does enforce it. So let me just clarify this. I wrote to the Supreme Court Chief Justice to the Chief Counsel of the Office of State Courts Administrators, a precious woman named Laura Rush, a lawyer of long service in the government. I wrote to the State Department's attorneys, and I pointed out to them these discrepancies. Number one, that I found a whole bunch of people that hadn't sworn their oaths that they were supposed to. And number two, that even though they may have sworn their oaths, they couldn't prove it because there's no jurat on it since the year 2000. So, this did a shakeup. That was in the summer of 2006. In July of 2007, the director of the Office of State Courts Administrators, personnel director, sent a memo to all of the marshals who run the district courts administration and the trial courts administrators who run the circuit and county courts, and told them they better get the judges to go out and swear their loyalty oaths all over again. Can I get a round of applause? They did the right thing.
Yes.
The right thing. Why? Because I grabbed a stick and I whacked that snake, because the snake was right there in front of me. I didn't go running and say, somebody please hit that snake. That's how you hit a snake. Or that's how you whack a snake. You bring it to their attention. You expect them to do good. You demand that they do good lovingly. And if they don't, you follow up. Well, I had to follow up repeatedly to make sure they were taking action. Well, meanwhile, what I didn't see, there's mud boiling back here in the steam room of the government. Mud boiling. These guys are sitting back there with their steam towels on, and talking about things. I don't know, man. We got something weird going on with these oaths. Better do something about it so we don't look like a bunch of idiots. After all, we don't even have a government. Let's fake it the best we can so nobody else finds out. And let's fix that little silly problem. So they put the jurat back on the oath forms, and that was in July, and in November or October of 2007, they sent that memo out and had all the judges go swear their loyalty oaths again, and they were all done, most of them by February of 2007. So I produced 2 hardcore results with administrative activism. I wrote letters, made phone calls, chided, cajoled, sweet-talked. I did whatever I could to get these people to cooperate and do their job. And they did it. Yes, sir.
Wow, I didn't get it at the very beginning, but I'm not sure.
You're not bringing my name up in the meeting, right?
Listen, I'm not sure I missed the beginning of this here, but I'm not sure what this meeting is about.
This is what we are, is we're reorganizing.
Reorganizing what?
We reorganizing all the people who are starving to death for an opportunity to work together, learn the law, learn administrative process, learn political process, and become politically active and correct problems that relate to our civilization, specifically with regard to government.
So, we have ABC News here to tell them that we're here to organize a meeting.
No, I've already organized the meeting. We're here.
What's the purpose of all these cameras and
You know what? They would like to know what it's like, what we are doing down here. They want to get insight into what human beings are doing who have a modicum of common sense. Do you remember the 60 Minutes story with Jerry and Joe Kane getting murdered? And because they allegedly murdered some cops, well, as it turns out, they didn't murder anybody.
Right.
They got murdered.
Okay, well,
but the 60 Minutes story portrayed them as murderers and directly accused them of that.
Well, let's tell them
These
what
people would like to correct their misconceptions.
Oh, these people, is that what these people really want to do?
Exactly.
Because
they want to get the truth in front of the public in such a way the public will enjoy the story.
Okay, now my impression of the media has been very negative because the media portrays this movement as very negative. And so we get the ABC News to come down here and put their cameras all in our face, look like it's really impressive. And we've been beat down, negative publicity, probably even from ABC. And now all of a sudden ABC wants to come and give us a positive note and say that the sovereign, which is an oxymoron, the sovereign, there's no such thing as a sovereign citizen, first of all. Okay? And so therefore they want to come here to teach the world that we're just a friendly, loving people and we don't mean no harm.
No. They want to know what's really going on.
Okay, let's tell them what's really going on.
Okay, well,
Well,
to start with,
Let's tell them what's really going on.
I think we
All right,
are sovereign
let's
citizens.
But you can't be a sovereign citizen. Sovereign
We are
citizens
sovereign
are oxymoron.
citizens, but the government forgot.
all right, so what's really going on is, number one, we have come together in order to get reorganized because of, as you know, the group failed a few months ago.
Well, no, it didn't necessarily fail. It was a police raid and it was intimidation. That's why.
realize, but what happened
That's
is
what
the
happened.
group
But
failed
tell
to-
them the truth, Bob. Don't sit up and say it failed.
No, I'm saying the group failed to continue meeting.
Because they
And-
were intimidated,
That's
because
right.
the authorities came in with this phony raid and captured a 13-year-old boy and threw him on the ground, slammed him on the ground. That's what really happened.
Okay.
Okay, it wasn't that it failed. And there's other. Listen, now I don't want to come here with this bull crap about trying to impress the news, impress ABC News about how friendly we are. I don't give a crap how friendly anybody is. If they come at me with a gun, I got a gun too. Okay, that's what I'm about. Now, the media, the organizations that we've had for the past have failed because of misleadership, egos. They get involved, get in the way, or either police raids. But there have been sincere, honest people throughout this nation that, if you want to call a sovereign citizen, which is an oxymoron, but the sovereign people that are trying to restore the Constitution, I'm all for. But I don't want to sit up here and pander like this. The government's going to do something for us. The government is our primary problem. Those are the ones that instruct the attacks on this movement throughout this country. And then the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League, is one of the sources that I think you failed to mention that gave us huge negative publicity. Huge negative publicity. Okay? And what we were trying to do is come together as individuals, coming together and sharing our experiences of trying to get out of debt and trying to deal with this government in a different way than what we've been traditionally taught to deal with it. Because most of us aren't aware of the Constitution. If we were aware of the Constitution, we know that Article 1, Section 8 and 10 outlaws the existence of a Federal Reserve. But that's just one aspect of the Constitution. But I don't know if this is, to me, it's really boring to sit here and listen to you lecture us about what?
About what?
About what? That's what I'm trying to figure out. What are we doing here?
Well,
I mean,
here's
really.
what I have suggested, what you missed. But that's okay.
Yeah, I missed it, and that's why I want to get clarification on it. I don't like to come into a meeting late, but I've texted
that's
people
all
that
right.
were here, and they still didn't have clarity either.
Yeah, okay, well, you're doing a good job.
Thank you.
All right, so now you've made it plain.
I'm
that you
not
want-
finished, though. I'm not finished.
No, you're not being shut up either.
Okay.
You know, as I said,
You know how I am,
I'm going to
Bob.
make some introductory remarks and then get to show.
But I'm not here to try to impress the news.
I want to impress you.
Yeah, impress us then, okay?
Now,
But
what-
don't forget the news cameras. We're not trying to impress the
Okay,
news.
my mission.
I'm not.
My mission here is to get us organized and active. Learning the Constitution and the laws, learning the rules of court so that we can succeed when we have to litigate, because legal process is one of our methods of obtaining remedy from abuse, and to work together to become politically active in a nonpartisan way, and also to become administratively active so that we can be successful in taking tyrants and removing tyrannical behavior from them or from the government without violence, bloodshed, and all the disruption of life and our systems of operation in our communities that would attend things like Ruby Ridge or Jerry Kane getting murdered. I don't want to see us waste our time doing things that are counterproductive, and that is counterproductive. We need to keep ourselves out of harm's way, but still be effective. I gave you two examples. You may not realize that these were earth-shaking examples. These are cataclysmically effective. That by my actions, by myself, gently taking my time over a period of months, convinced the government to change two terribly egregious things. Number one, that judges hadn't even been swearing their loyalty oaths. And number two, there wasn't even a jurat on the loyalty oath forms. Not for 6 years. And during those 6 years, that meant none of the people in government qualified who were elected or appointed to office.
So once they did this, what effect did it have on the system as a whole?
Here's the effect it had. It made them feel right because they were properly authorized to hold their positions. They were no longer quasi de facto officers. Now oh, by the way, what I didn't tell you is in this process there is a public employee's oath, and all of the public employees other than the elected and appointed officers had sworn them. They all had jurats on them. You know why? Because they weren't kept by the State Department's Bureau of Election Records. They were kept by individual human resources managers around the state for various courts and so forth. Except for one thing, the judges, the very people who should have had loyalty oaths in place, didn't. They flouted the law, they didn't care, and they acted as though, let's get on down the road, I don't need to do this. So, I am saying to you that when they disobey, we don't need to pull out guns and start shooting people. We need to correct the problem.
Bob, nobody's
this
doing
behavior's wrong, let's fix that behavior.
But Bob, what you're saying, nobody's pulling out guns and doing that. We're trying to come together, we've been trying to come together as peaceful people trying to remedy our problems, specifically financial.
Yeah.
You act as though well, Ruby Ridge, most of us probably don't know what the hell Ruby Ridge is, Waco, or even the move. Okay, we don't know the details behind it. And when you keep saying as though like we're some, or people like us, or just some raving lunatics with guns, we have the Second Amendment does exist, and we have that protects you from a tyrannical government. That's what it does. The Second Amendment, the right to bear arms. That's what it specifically was designed for. So we have the right to bear arms, and we are very peaceful. But the problem is every time we try to organize, we get some type of infiltration, we get some type of violent attacks against us. Not that we're perpetrating, that have been perpetrated against us. That's what you need to address.
Okay, well, we should address that.
Yeah, that's what needs to be addressed.
Let's just take that as an issue because I think it's sufficient. You brought it up twice, and I think it's a valid point, and we need to address it. There probably hasn't been any opportunity for a public forum on this point. Here's what happened. In Tampa, at a meeting a few months back, a 13-year-old boy brought a pistol, it is alleged, to the parking lot where the group met in Tampa for a purpose similar to this. And there were two other men who carried weapons on them that were drinking a beer out in their pickup truck in the parking lot. Apparently perfectly legal. And the father of the boy was inside the meeting room or inside the restaurant. So what happened is the boy pulled his weapon out and brandished this pistol that he had, and the police immediately apparently were lying in wait and converged down on this parking lot, took the two men and disarmed them and put them in handcuffs, roughly, and then took the boy and got on top of him on the ground and disarmed him and handcuffed him. The father came out, wanted to know what in the world is going on. The officer cop said, "Did you know that your son had a pistol?" He said, "Yes." Immediately took him into custody, arrested him, and handcuffed him. They took the boy and his father to jail and let the other two men go. The next week, there was another meeting. It seemed like there were sour feelings toward the two men who had been armed, that there were maybe government plants or something. Some of the people thought this, maybe some didn't. I'm not really sure of all of that. I just simply have heard rumors about it.
Okay, well, I can tell you specifically because I was there and I was the host of that meeting.
Right, so what happened?
Okay. First of all, let me come up here. I'll tell you about it. Let's get it straight, okay? First of all, we had a meeting. We've been meeting for about a year and a half, okay? And we had a group of what you want to call sovereigns, truth seekers, freedom seekers, etc. That's what the name of our group was, freedom seekers. I believe, I can't remember exactly. But what happened was we may have had infiltrators in the meeting or not. I don't care about no infiltrators being in the meeting. Come right on out to my meeting. I'm not running from them because we're not doing anything illegal. Okay, we're not doing anything illegal. We're trying to follow the laws of the land since the government is violating the laws of the land. Okay, and that's what the people are supposed to do. Responsible people are supposed to stand up against the government if it's not representative of the people. That's what our meeting was about. I did not want any damn leaders in my meeting. I wanted individuals that came there, and we shouldn't even use that word, but we wanted people to come there and share their experiences of what they had in the movement. And we had a very successful meeting. We probably ran one of the largest meetings in Florida once we changed the platform. Because we had this boring, traditional platform that wasn't going nowhere, and we had to put some fire under it. And that's what I'm about, putting some fire and stuff. I can't sit around talking to these educated idiots and these so-called intellectuals that always want to teach you something about the nonsense they learned in those silly colleges and educational institutions. We are common people, and we want results. I don't care about all this educated nonsense that they give us. That's just a detour and a detraction from the truth and reality of what's going on. And that's what our meeting tried to address. Now, yeah, we may have had plans. Some people accused the two gentlemen of being plants. Here's what happened. There was a 13-year-old child that brought a gun to the meeting, unloaded, to get it sized for a holster. I thought it was crazy, but I didn't know anything about it. Now, one of the gentlemen who was supposed to have been a licensed rifle or firearms expert and trainer told this child to bring the gun to the meeting. Now, they were coming from, we were centrally located right here in Tampa, Florida. They were coming from, I presume, near Brandon, and the child was coming from the Ocala area. So our place was ideal for them to meet to do the sizing of this gun. Now, my question all along was to the so-called plants, and I wasn't worried if they were plants or not. I thought the guys were great, okay? But the point is, why would this licensed trainer tell a kid, firearms instructor, tell a young child, a 13-year-old child, to bring a weapon to our meeting? Now that was confusing, and that indicates that maybe some type of infiltration activity was going on, possibly. Okay, because all he has to do to me is tell me the type of gun you have, and then I'll bring a holster for it. I'm sure you can go on the internet or somewhere as a licensed firearms expert and know what type of pistol this kid has and just bring the holster instead of having the kid to bring the firearm to our meeting. One of the most controversial meetings in Florida, they do this. This firearms expert tells the child to bring the weapon to the meeting. Okay? Now, the father wasn't aware of it. Okay? He didn't just automatically agree to it. He resisted all along by saying, well, listen, I didn't know that my child had the firearm. I really didn't know. But it was a phone conversation between them, and maybe the phone conversation was tapped. Okay? We should be used to that in this type of movement, that the phone conversation was tapped. So the kid brought the firearm, and then they set out in the parking lot while we were getting ready to convene the meeting inside. Now, some people come running in telling me that there was a commotion going on in the parking lot, so myself and the child's father ran out to the parking lot to address the issue. What's going on? And why in the hell do they need 30, 20, or however many police officers to deal with a child with a pistol? That he wasn't waving it and brandishing it or trying to, just getting it sized. And when the police told him, instructed him what to do, he did it. But they used excessive force on the child, slammed him on the ground, etc. Okay? Now, in that episode, it indicated to a lot of the people that attended the meeting, we knew how controversial we were, okay, to this government and to other parties that control the government. So therefore, people in the meeting got a little uneasy. And I was thinking, okay, well if they're going to roughhouse us and strong-arm us into doing this, maybe we should disband the meeting and relocate elsewhere, redirect it. And that's what Bob, a good friend of mine, came in and said, well, and he came with a great idea. Maybe we should learn the law, etc., and disband this meeting and go elsewhere. Okay, that's fine. But when you all come here, I want you all to know what really happened there. Okay? It may have been an infiltrator, it may not have. But all the indications are that it was an infiltrator. Because why would a firearms expert tell a child to bring a gun to the meeting? Okay? We had other people in the meeting that we had suspected of doing this type of activity as well. But at the opening of my meeting, I always told people, you're all welcome. Infiltrators or not, FBI, CIA, Mossad, whatever, you're all welcome. I don't care because we're not doing anything wrong. Maybe you will learn something as well from this meeting. Okay? Maybe they will learn something as well because we had an open book. They could see anything that we do, you can go do your own research. Okay, it's not like it's some hidden material. We use the Uniform Commercial Code. We study adverse possession. These are all laws that have been created by this government. And all we're doing is trying to read between the lines and say, what is it that they're not telling us? How can we remedy ourselves? How can we stop the government from abusing us and the banks? How can we stop them from abusing our rights? What can we do as individuals, as people, to change these conditions. So we did research, and we had people from all over the area that were doing tremendous amounts of research. People that had expertise in all areas, from dealing with IRS and the taxes, to the Federal Reserve, to the Constitution, adverse possession, everything. That's what our meeting was about, and it was a successful meeting. We had 40 to 60 people that came out every Wednesday to this meeting because people were tired of all this egotism of one person trying to lead a meeting, and I wasn't the one for it. I was hosting the meeting. And that's what everybody liked. I still like that. I don't care about some one figurehead trying to say, oh, well, listen to me, I'm going to tell you what to do, and then all you puppets run and do it. We're not about that nonsense. Each and every one of you have a brain, and you should exercise your rights as an individual. And you come here as a group and you tell us, okay, I don't like this, I don't like that, we should do this, we should do that, and we as a group will make that decision. Not some individual, because that's what we've had a problem with all the groups that have been trying to meet for a long time in this city, and in this state, and across the United States. We get one figurehead, and when that figurehead gets attacked, then everybody runs and scatters like little scared sheep. So I figured that we would empower each person. Each person needs to be empowered so that when they come down on us, we say, we're not doing anything wrong, let's stick together and make this thing happen. And that's what Bob is doing. But, you know, I'm a little hyper guy. I want to get right to the damn point. I want you all to know this news, that we're not a bunch of radicals running around with damn guns trying to kill somebody. That's your government that does that. That's the government that does that. We're trying to defend ourselves from their attacks. That's what we're trying to do. And that's what this meeting should be about, if we're going to talk about anything, because the government has killed more people than anybody. Not Ruby Ridge, not Waco, not MOVE, or any other group that was attacked, fictitiously and fraudulently attacked by this government.
So what did you do? So what did you do in terms of a courtroom solution? Anything?
No, we were going to visit the courtrooms. We had experts even in that field. I mean, Bob Kane.
Did you start? Did you start?
I don't know. Yes, we did. We had various groups. We did a whole lot of stuff. And I don't want to go into too much detail on that because people may not want to be recognized for what they did. But we covered those areas, just like I said earlier. I don't want to go into too much detail, but I want you to know that these type of meetings are happening even to this day all over the country, and this government is attacking these meetings. Yeah. Okay? And there's nobody, if they bring in firearms to these meetings, most of these people have legal firearms. Okay? And I don't have no problem with a person bringing a gun to my meeting if they got a legal firearm. They have the right to do that, then do it. I don't have a problem. I'm sorry, you had a question too? Sorry.
Well,
I can sit down. I just wanted to say that to make sure we had clarity on what happened successfully. And if people were taking the time, they would have understood what he was doing. And Bob, you know it as well.
I know all the details on it.
So that's what I thought this meeting was about.
Well, we have accomplished part of our purpose here, which is, number one, simply to get together and to let it be known we intend, or I intend, to host additional meetings. And that doesn't mean all by myself. I graciously, joyously invite cooperative hosting from William and various other people, whoever wants to participate. But I'm also, you know, willing to come out of my bat cave and do what I need to do to get people organized and active again. Yes?
You know, I was totally unaware. Like I said, I was invited here, but just some observations. Media, regardless of whether it's the printed, radio, television media, they have editors. And editors determine, even this situation,
yes,
how it is presented to the public. Now, even in the best light, they can adjust this and present the story however the negative slant they want to make. But when you have a situation where two people that are leaders in a community have a situation like this, you just give fuel to the media in order for them to do this. We all are adults. We know that anytime people come together to fight a corrupt government, whether it's Egypt or United States, that the government is going to resist. Now, of course, our government doesn't shoot people and kill them and all of that kind of stuff. Our government doesn't do that. Excuse me, I got choked.
You need some water?
Yeah. Our government doesn't do that. That's always done somewhere else.
Right, exactly.
However, I don't think we're gonna get what you're looking for. You're looking for the media to present and portray these folks.
Let me correct you. I know what the media is about, and I know they're not going to give us any justification. They're not going to give us any justification because they're controlled by a force.
Can I say?
They're controlled by the outside force.
Can I get?
But you be sure to explain it right.
Let him finish. Thank you. That's all I'm trying to say. You have no idea what I was about to say.
I know what you're about to say.
Okay.
The media is controlled.
Then finish the rest of my sentence.
Okay, go ahead.
In other words, back up, will you? Let me finish this.
I've been doing this for too long, okay? I've been doing this for too long. I've been thrown in jail for this. I've been thrown in jail for this. I'm not sitting up here just trying to.
Then William, you know what? All I'm saying is that's the reason why it's not successful. If you can't cooperate and communicate between yourselves, if your emotions are going to control you, emotions are good servants, but they're bad rulers. If you let them control you, then all you're doing is letting the media have all the ammunition they need to give this a slant. Because I could sit here and write an editorial for them to give this all a negative slant, and I'm not even a journalist. So what I'm saying is, and I said all this to say, I came here blindsided.
Me too.
And I'm in this, but since I'm here, I just want to figure out, what are we doing? What is it about? Because for a moment I thought I understood, but I don't. And I'm looking at the media's face, and he's kind of like a deer in the headlights, and I don't blame him because I'm standing there next to him. We're both going, what the fuck? But anyway, this is never. I'm kind of contemplating what I'm going to do. So I'm just trying to get, whether it's from you or from
Take no advice from me.
I'm trying to get from either one of you guys.
Can I interject something?
Oh,
As
absolutely.
the media?
The same you are, yes.
So if
My
you,
name is Dan
if you let
Harris.
me finish it, I'd be happy to give us the direction.
Well, let Dan
I
go.
would let Dan have to say.
My name is Dan Harris. I'm the reporter and also in large measure the editor too. So I think our desire is to hear from all of you about what this movement is, what you want, what you're upset about, what you're hoping to change.
That's what I thought it was about.
Yes.
That's
And
our
then we
desire.
had Bob up here giving a lecture, and I'm trying to say,
Well,
well,
he's filling the space, I think, like, yeah.
To state the purpose of our coming together. Look, here's what I want. I want us to do it again and again and again. Keep coming back, focus on learning the law, the procedures, the administrative process, and talk about our individual problems and what kind of solutions you think you'd like to do and why they would or wouldn't work. Then if it's a group activity needed to get these solutions in play, let's do it. We should be operating like a team for the purpose of learning and becoming legally and politically active.
So
We want to hear from each.
So
We want to hear
Bob,
from all of you.
The only thing.
Well, I've been an unbiased observer just with your other meetings. And
What's your name?
my name is Bonnie
easy,
Roslow.
you don't give your name.
Bonnie Leslie.
Yes. So I've been an unbiased observer of meetings because I'm very much into education and knowledge. And coming to different networking events and different media meetings where people come together and they voice their opinions, I find it very enlightening. You know, the original meeting, I can tell you right now, this meeting is nothing like the other one I viewed, which, you know, there was some things that happened. But at that meeting, they have lots of people there, attorneys there, business people there, accountants there, everyone from every type of business that's just wanting knowledge and wanting some additional information. It's very nice to see what's going on in the news media, getting that story, but then these meetings, they would show up on a weekly basis and discuss some of the current items that were going on, and you would actually get the backdoor information. And whenever I say backdoor information, I'm talking about they would express what's happening, but they would also show up with factual things, like factual references, factual witnesses, people that were directly involved with stuff, so it wasn't just one-sided. So just as an observer, and I'm an open-minded person, I listen to what's happening. These meetings have been very good from what I've seen, and everyone has been within, a very good context, but there are a lot of heated arguments that go on in these meetings, and it's a great outlet for people to be able to express themselves and have these discussions. Whether there's solutions that happen, there's some people that are fixed in one way, and whether or not there's an actual solution where people know how to handle things, I believe that's being accomplished because you're given the information through attorneys, through people who study the Constitution and study, the procedures and operations of things, to actually do something about it and actually, take that energy and direct it into the right path to get to where they want to go from A to B. But I tell you right now, William's very passionate of making sure that people are very educated and knowing how to handle things in regards to adverse possession, credit repair, financial decisions. People's houses are being taken. These people are all showing up to these meetings to find out how they can help themselves and utilize the legal system and utilize the resources of people who share that same passion. And they've been very effective. They've been getting results. I see the stats. I don't believe anything that I hear. I mean, you've got to show me or I've got to see it for myself. And from what I've seen the results, statistically, factually, and I've witnessed it myself. And that's reality for me, is being unbiased, just observing and, going through these meetings and picking up things. And you don't agree with all of it, and then you agree with some of it, and it makes sense. But everyone in the group is able to decide what they're feeling, what they're seeing, and they share it, and you definitely get both sides of the story. Because I've seen things that are way on one side that I thought that they were this way, and then I come to these meetings and I learn something brand new, and then I can go home and research it to make sure that it's true.
William has used the word movement. What is this movement, and what are you trying to achieve?
It looks to me like self-education, like literally having people meeting and getting practical law degrees. I mean, there's people that are doing paralegal work, there's people that are doing attorney work, there's people that are doing, banker work.
Education about what?
About adverse possession, how to do it properly.
What is adverse possession?
That's when you're taking, I will let the expert answer that question.
Well, what I would, yeah. Jim's a realtor. Jim's better.
Is what they do. Say a home that it's been abandoned, you can go and start taking care of that home, live in it.
Is that legal?
Oh yes, legal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Have people been arrested for that?
Well,
Yes.
illegally.
Yeah, one of them.
Just because you're arrested don't mean you've done anything wrong.
One of them, a man named Derek Hanna, was going to come here tonight, but he couldn't get a ride over. He lives in Polk County. But the principle of adverse...
He's living in a...
What is the statute?
He did, then he got arrested and he quit.
What is the statute? 452?
No, it's 95 statute. Florida statute, chapter 95 deals with limitations. 95.16 is adverse possession, not under color of title, and 95.18 is under color of title. But what these do is they don't tell you you can do adverse possession. They simply tell you how you can do it. In other words, what the requirements are for adverse possession. You have to take notorious possession, meaning out in full public in front of everybody without hiding it and skulking around. You have to do it hostile, take hostile adverse possession, meaning without permission. You have to maintain or improve the property, establish boundaries if they haven't been established, because you could grab a piece of property within a large farm or a big tract of land. You have to give a proper metes and bounds description of the property, and you have to pay the property tax, any special assessments from government, and if there are homeowners association dues, you need to pay those. Well, the idea of doing adverse possession is there's no law on the books in Florida or in the United States government that says you may do adverse possession. It's a common law and statutory right inherited over 600 years from English law. And in 1829, the Florida legislature enacted a law, which is Chapter 2.01, that describes the law of Florida as the common and statutory law of England up to 1776, Independence Day. So what that means is those laws of England became the laws of Florida. Now, if you ask a legislator today, well, I'd like to know, or the court, what's the English law of Florida that yet remains? Because the only part that remains is that which remains consistent with the constitutions of the U.S. and the state of Florida and with the statutes of the United States.
Can I interrupt for 1 second?
Yes.
Is there a bottom line belief that everybody here shares? Is there a belief that the government is out of control? What is the common denominator?
That's a general consensus all over the country.
Well,
But on adverse possession, Bob's going to give you the whole history of it. Bottom line, you all should do your own research as well. Don't take everything we just told you is a lie. Okay, that's what we sit here and lie. We're lying to you until you do your own research and find out if it's true or not. That's where we open all of our meetings. So what Bob just told you, what Jim just told you, and even what Bonnie just told you, that's what our belief of adverse possession is. Okay, but you all should go do your research as well.
because in the end, what you believe and what I believe doesn't matter. It's what the judge says that matters. The law is only what the judge says. Here's what our general belief is. That the constitutions provide a structure and framework of government and puts handcuffs on government actors. When government actors exceed the restrictions of those handcuffs, when they blow it, when they go beyond their authority, they then become tyrannical to the extent they exceed their authority. And when they exceed their authority and do it under color of law, they become treasonous against the people. It is true, honest betrayal because we trust them because of their loyalty oath, and when they violate that oath, they have betrayed that trust. That is treason. Now, the fact is, they get away with it because of public policy, number one, and because of the good old boys network, number two, and because number three, they have guns, we don't. And they're willing to use them and we're not. Okay?
So at what point is violence justified?
Well, each person has to make that decision himself, but in general, we have proof in the Florida Constitution, Article 1, Section 2 of 1838, and in the Declaration of Independence that when you've had it, let the cork blow. You know, you have got to take responsibility for correcting the problem.
Well, let me
Now, that's it. What I just said, I'm paraphrasing, is whoever's closest to the snake, grab a stick and hit it. And if you can't prevail against that snake because he's bigger than you and he's got bad teeth, get your buddies to help you out. And you know what? That's what it's all about.
So that starts to sound like a revolution.
No, it isn't.
No.
Because in all instances, common sense needs to prevail. You must weigh the cost. If you read the... Let me finish. Stop interrupting. No, hold on. No, just you relax. You calm down and back off. I'm saying I was quiet for the time you spoke. Now be quiet for a minute. All right. My point, and I wanted to make this point to this group, is that we must adopt the position that even though anybody can pull out a gun and start shooting anytime he wants, if he has one, he's probably going to hit the wrong target. He's probably going to get killed in the process, and he's an idiot to do it. There's a lot of people down the chain that are going to suffer because of his mistake, because of his incompetence, because of his error. Therefore, it takes careful deliberation before taking such an action. People need to exercise common sense. Do not put themselves in harm's way for no damn reason whatsoever, except I'm mad. I went to court, judge ruled against me, I'm mad, I think I'll blow him away. That's wrong in anybody's book.
What do other people think about this?
I have a question.
Yeah.
You just asked that, you said that sounds revolutionary, and I don't understand that. How can you have a revolution by asking the government to do what it should be doing in the first place? You only asking the government to follow those laws. That's not a revolution.
Specifically, I was responding to his notion of whacking a snake, which is, he said, you should whack the snake if the snake is not responding. The first part of it, he said, if justified, you should whack the snake. And if the snake isn't responding because it's bigger than you and has bad teeth, you should ask your friends to do it. My response was, that sounds like a revolution.
No, you get help. Well, no, it could be just political action. It could be sue him in court. It could be sue him in small claims court.
But my question, it was in response to a question on my end, which was, is violence ever justified?
Well, now I have got to correct this. Listen, hold it just a second. It is not the point. You have raised a wrong point. Your question should be, when is physical force, not violence, justified? Because since the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of every state have justified physical force, by
What's the difference?
altering or changing the government by whatever means we deem expedient, is both in both of those documents. Read them if you don't believe me. Therefore, the use of physical force is not violence. Violence is unlawful use. It's totally lawful and totally appropriate to use physical force against a tyrant and a despot who is acting outside the restraints of his constitution.
Excellent.
So in what circumstances would physical force be
I
justified?
tell you what, physical force would have been justified in my case. It was on April 10th, 2009, I made a U-turn, which was not illegal, okay? He didn't even know what the law was. I'm very knowledgeable of traffic laws. I've been a fast driver all my life, and I know traffic laws, okay? He charged me with 316.074, which is for running a red light. But 316.50, but he charged me for doing an illegal U-turn, which is 316.1515 that requires a sign to be posted. There's no sign on the intersection where I was, okay? Once I got turned, I saw him coming. So it's no doubt about, you know, there's a police in the area, so if I'm going to do something, I'm going to make sure that I'm within the law. Made the turn, getting ready to take a right turn on First Street in the city of Lakeland at the intersection of Florida Avenue and Memorial Boulevard. As I was getting ready to turn on right on First Street, I noticed a police officer in the back of me with his light on. I'm thinking he got a call to go north, so I'm going to go ahead and get out of his way. When I make a right-hand turn, he turns in behind me. Okay? At this point, I'm thinking he got a call too late to make his turn on Memorial Boulevard. He's going down First Street to get to Lake Mills Boulevard. So I pull over to let him by. He pulls in behind me. So I'm sitting there with my foot on the brake and the engine's still running, expecting him to come up and tell me what he's going to do. But he can't be. He's going to ask me something. I mean, I didn't do anything. So when I let the window down, he walks up and stood behind the window a little bit to the rear and said, "Let me see your driver's license, insurance card, and registration." I carry them in my front pocket and I'm all strapped in. I need to ask permission to get out. So I said, "Well, what are you charging me with?" Just to find out why he stopped me. He reached in and hit my automatic locks. Locks popped open. He caught the door and opened and called me by the arm, started to pull me out the car. So I'm thinking false. I had to rush and put my car in park, switch it off, and get out. And I'm thinking false arrest in my mind. And he was only about, I saw a fear kind of come over when I stepped out the car. I was a whole lot larger than what he thought I was, so I could tell that. But he ain't got no reason to be afraid of me. So he put the cuff on me, and I'm thinking false arrest, but he tightened up about 2 clicks too tight. So I brought my right hand up. I said, hold on, man. I said, "You got to loosen up this cuff. You're cutting off my circulation." He took the bottom left end and twisted down there, trying to force my arm behind me. And when he couldn't get it to go back there because he wasn't big enough and strong enough, he started tasing me. He wound up tasing me 9 times. He tased me until backup came. They put enough pressure on my head to cause a severe hematoma. I had to have 3 brain surgeries as a result of it. I had 2 on the 15th of May. It took about 2 or 3 weeks for me to start to lose my balance and stumble and fall and that kind of stuff. And so I had a torn meniscus in my left knee, so it re-entered that. So I'm thinking it's my knee, but it was my head all the time. 2 surgeries. When I came out of the hospital on June 1st of 2009, they sent me to Tampa General for rehab for 5 to 6 months. Okay. When I got over there, they determined I needed something more than rehab, sent me for another surgery, and then on the 4th of June, they performed the 3rd surgery, and they dismissed me on the 9th, and I've been getting better ever since. It took me 9 days then to rehab.
Did you take any recourse?
Pardon me?
Did you take any legal recourse?
They charged me with a whole bunch of crap trying to justify what they had done to me. They charged me with resisting with violence and without violence. The Supreme Court of Florida said that's double jeopardy. It's either one or the other or neither, but it's not both. But he charged me for doing the U-turn. But if I made a circle instead of a U-turn, and if I had all my lights out instead of 1 brake light out, okay, there was no reason to arrest me. He arrested me, charged me for resisting because I pulled my hand back when he caught my arm to take my seatbelt off so I could get out of the car.
So this story you would say is physical force would be justifiable in response to this?
Physical force would have definitely been justified in that case. They almost killed me, and I had committed no crime. And I have gone to court. They have not even charged me with a crime in open court. They never arraigned me. They never determined whether I was injured. They appointed me a public defender. I've had 5 attorneys withdraw. I've gone to court 38 times, and they selected 2 juries, one on April 19th of 2010, and they dismissed it on the 21st. They selected another one on the 29th of November, 2010 and dismissed it on the 1st of December and have not tried me. They did that, trying to intimidate me. I went and the prosecutor on the case now has been there since the 306th day after I was arrested, which was the 10th of February 2010, and I went and bought the transcript. They don't even have a transcript for the first time I was in court on the 12th of May 2009.
Does this say something larger to you about the nature of our government?
Pardon me?
Does this incident in which you were involved say something larger to you about the nature of our government?
It's larger.
Is there a larger issue here beyond just what happened
Well,
to you?
it's getting in my opinion, it's getting progressively worse. Okay, they use about 95 to 96% of the people. They force them to enter like a no contest plea agreement. Okay, they ain't done nothing but making profit. In my opinion, the local courts is nothing but banks, branch banks for the Federal Reserve. They ain't done nothing but raking in money and robbing people, in my opinion.
In other words, to answer to your question, this is a systemic problem. In Polk County, where he lives, there are issue after issue after issue of abuse by the sheriff and the police department and the state attorney and the judges. All of them seem in collusion to deprive people of their justice, of their remedy and the relief they have the reason to expect from court.
Pardon me? It never made the news. I call report after reporter. I can't get anybody to cover the story. It's never made anything. Okay, and they publish everything. The Lakeland Ledger over there, they do everything. I mean.
So you're saying that in essence, like the news is always showing the the stuff in light of the police officer, but not showing the other side.
The internal affairs investigator over there, the person in charge of it, she gave him a clear report. But then when she was summoned to a deposition on the 28th and 29th, well, there were 5 of them on the 28th and 29th of last year of 2000, March 28th and 29th of 2011, all 5 of them stated that he violated policy. So if he violated policy, how did he get a clear report? You know? And I've gone to court 38 times, like I say, and they have never even arraigned me. They got, and the first 4 transcript, but they don't have one for the first time I went, the 12th of May. The 26th of August, 7th of October, and the 10th of February, the official court reporter start the case off. This is a domestic violence injunction hearing.
These are the types of things, at least from a middle person coming in and seeing what's on the TV and then coming and seeing these things, and he's got, evidence and, people backing out of depositions and stuff. I mean, and he's given dates and specifics. It's hard for me to think like he's lying, and so so you see both sides.
I don't know anybody. I don't know a single person that would not have already been convicted, okay, with what I was charged with. But my civil attorney tried to get me down on a no contest plea to refusing to give fingerprints, and they were going to dismiss everything else. But that would have let the judges and I'm more upset with the judges and the prosecutors than I am with the police officer. Because the police officer, what they did to me, they did it out of ignorance and lack of training. But what the judges and the prosecutors have done to me, they done it because they're trying to protect that corrupt system, and they think they're smarter than me. And I could not, in good conscience, enter a no contest plea to refusing to give fingerprints when there was no requirement for me to give fingerprints, because I would have regretted it the rest of my life. I would rather be sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole than to plead to something that I didn't do. I cannot do it.
By the way, this is the same courthouse where the judge had the bailiffs pick me up and carry me bodily out of the courthouse because I wouldn't give the judge my name. As an observer, not a participant in the court case.
And this judge on my case now, he's the only one that's shown on there is the judge that's on the case. I've been before 7 different judges. Only 2 of them are showing up on the record. And only 1 of the 2 I've actually gone before. That record is so screwed up, it's unreal over there.
What does sovereignty mean? When that term gets tossed around, what does that mean?
What it really means is this. The people of the United States and the people of the individual states, the several states, are the source of the sovereignty that government possesses. They yield a portion of their personal sovereignty to government in a trust defined by the constitutions and supported by the loyalty oaths of those who perform government service. And that means that the people have the right at all times to remove that sovereignty that they have yielded to government and take it back and give it to someone else if they wish, or to keep it among themselves.
But it's commonly described, sovereigns are commonly described as people who do not believe the laws of this country apply to them.
There are some foolish people
That's not true.
who are
The
misconstrued.
people are the sovereign. It's the sovereign that create the government. The government didn't create the people. The sovereign is the master, okay? You don't create your master, okay? The master does the creating.
The concept is to differentiate
In my
between
opinion.
the United States as a republic and England as a monarchy.
So what's the practical ramification of what you're describing?
Practical ramification is whoever's closest to the snake, grab a stick and whack it. That means
Snake
take
in this
personal,
case is what?
listen, take personal, individual responsibility to correct the situation. In his case,
A different
now,
analogy that you're talking about quality control. It's
The
almost
snake,
like
in my
developing-
opinion, would be the one committing the
It's,
wrong.
the snake is not.
The one-
I mean, that. I understand the picture you're painting, but I would say it's more like you're wanting to educate people so that they can create a quality control for the government, right?
That's right.
Is that okay?
and we want to educate people so they will not only learn that they must take individual responsibility in as peaceable a way as they can and in the least harmful way, but that we want them to know how to take responsibility. In James's case, he's helpless. His brain was injured as a result of the assault from these police. He's out completely unlawful arrest, and he can't defend himself properly, but yet he has done it anyway. He needs a host of people to come to court and support him and be in front of that judge and be taking notes and looking at the judge and the bailiffs to make sure they don't further abuse him, because they will, and they have.
The first time the judge is on the case, now came to the case, I'm trying to explain to him what has happened and what should have happened and what has been omitted. He didn't want to hear it. He ordered me removed from the courtroom. On 2 other occasions, he ordered me removed from the courtroom. Okay?
And he's
supposed to be fair and unbiased.
He needs assistance to bring a complaint against the judge in the House Judiciary Committee and the Judicial Qualifications Commission, complaint in internal affairs against the police involved in his arrest who lied about him and have committed perjury egregiously. He needs criminal complaints filed against them, and it takes an organization of people to make this
Well,
happen.
let me just get a little broader. Do people here believe that you need to have driver's licenses?
Yes.
If you engage in commerce, you don't need to travel. You really don't need one to travel. You need it if you engage in commerce. But in order to driving and traveling look the same, but a guy asked me, he said, if a cowboy is out on the prairie, if he's riding a horse from point A to point B, is he driving or is he traveling? If he's going from point A to point B, he can be traveling. If he's herding cattle or something and engaged in commerce, then he's driving.
Do you have a driver's license?
Yes, I have a driver's license.
What about license plate?
I have a license plate.
But
But the law don't require you to have one. Ignorance will require people to have one, not the law.
Well,
in my opinion.
Okay, see, we have a difference of opinion.
And every law has a statute number to it. If you can't find it in the statute, then it doesn't exist.
Well, this is the difference between freedom seekers and truth seekers, because I can sit here and listen to both of yours, and then I can go home and research myself.
Yeah.
Just like I came here, like I had no idea that there were United States concentration camps. No clue.
Are there?
Over 900 of them.
Where are they?
There's one in, let's see, right outside of Atlanta. That's where they keep, I guess,
Concentration camp.
concentration camps.
Set up by the government.
Yes, by FEMA.
Oh, yeah.
And I wouldn't believe this, and I would have never known about this. You can Google it. Google United States concentration camps, and there's like hundreds of them. And then
But
Ventura?
you could Google the Easter Bunny, and that will come up too.
But Ventura, the governor, right?
Camps and you'll get
And you can
Well,
find
yes,
out where they're located.
I know, but I'm saying you could Google the Easter Bunny and find out where he's located.
Let me
Have you
finish
ever
this
heard of
really
this?
quick, okay? So then, Governor Ventura actually showed up to one with the camera crew and everything, okay? And I would not have believed it myself until I saw them videotape all the different ones, and you can see them, you can go drive up to them, and you have everything all over with personal people going and driving through these things and videoing it all. I would have never believed this if I didn't see it with my own eyes. I would have never believed it if I didn't Google it and do my own research, and the evidence is overwhelming, and you're getting a hold of this information from all these different people that are going and showing the same exact video footage of the same place. You know, but this is not covered and shown up on, you know, the news going, hi, we have concentration camps that are wide open, that are ready for people, and they've got all of this stuff. And I was like, in Louisiana, if we have so many concentration camps, why were there trailers brought in versus letting them utilize these residential centers, as they call them? You know, there's over 900 of them.
Go read 27
You will be
CFR
horrified.
72.11, said all crimes are commercial. Former Chief Justice Charles Rehnquist said that everybody in prison, both state and federal, are there voluntarily. Okay? They cannot lawfully send you to prison without your consent, but people consent out of ignorance.
What he
So
really
if I
meant,
get convicted of a crime
Excuse me.
and they send me to prison, I don't have to go?
No, that's not true. What he meant was, when he said that,
You have not committed a
any
crime.
behavior that you engaged in led to your incarceration, ultimately, because the court convicted you and sentenced you to jail term. But your behavior, which you voluntarily did, is what caused you to get put in
If
jail.
I steal $5 from this man, that's a crime, right?
No, if you what?
If I steal $5 from this gentleman right here, that's a crime, right?
Yeah, it's a common law theft.
Right. So if they want to punish me for that, isn't
But
there
look
legal
what the people
justification?
got in prison. I got a sister in prison right now. She's been in there 14 years. Never committed a crime. Had no. I got a nephew. Just got. And you can look that up in the daily report. On the 29th of December, this Georgia Court of Appeals said that they revoked his probation illegally without cause on the 7th of July in 2009. Okay, he's been in 2010. He's been in jail 622 days as of today, and they did it wrongfully, and they sent him out of Coffee County, Georgia, a private institution, okay, back to Tifton this afternoon. And we was trying to find, we called last night and say they told him to pack his bag, and people in Tifton didn't even know he was coming.
So let me ask you, if you believe that the government is setting up concentration camps and that the judges are tyrannical and ripping you off and sending people to prison unnecessarily and cops are beating people unnecessarily, what is the appropriate response? What are you suggesting be done?
People gotta learn, educate themselves so they can hopefully avoid it.
So
If I didn't know, and I don't know if I know enough, but if I didn't know as much as I do know, I would already be in prison. Okay, I would already be doing, and I ain't done nothing.
Where does this lead to the overthrow of the current government, or
No.
At least
No, just trying to get out the bad apples. That Rod people trying to make the people in there do what they're supposed to do. What they were
Here's
taking an
another
oath to
scenario
do.
recently that happened, at least that I had with a friend of mine. So my girlfriend, she's getting beat up by her significant other in a vehicle. So she's on her phone, she's calling 911 and everything. Eventually the phone gets thrown out of the window. The cops show up. She's the one who gets arrested and goes to jail. Never committed anything in her life, and she's, you know, and so she goes to jail over the weekend and everything, and she's the one who has to show up for court. So this goes on now for, I think it's been about 5 or 6 months. She is horrified with all this. She finally went to court this week, actually, and it all got dismissed. But when she showed up, or the cops showed up, they treated her the same kind of way, and until the attorney, she came to me, because people come to me for answers. If they didn't have people that really knew how to work the system with being educated to handle that situation properly, she could be in jail right now. And luckily
There's
then
too many people in
yeah,
jail
and it's
that haven't
happening
done
all
the
the time.
thing.
So, yes.
I know people in jail that haven't done the thing. I mean, this is only the grace of God that I'm not in jail and I didn't do nothing. I mean, the cop didn't even charge me with crimes. He said I did one thing, but he charged me under something else.
I guess my question is, if you believe that the government is committing the types of wrongs,
That's not the government. That guy's not the government. He just worked for the sorry
What
government.
I'm saying is, if you believe there are all these people wrongfully in prison, that they're setting up concentration camps, if you believe all this, you think the appropriate response is to have coffee and eggs and discuss legal remedies, or do you believe that some sort of forceful response needs to be mounted? That's my question.
Before that's answered, let us ask you a question. Sure. Because evidently you don't believe all this, right? Are you the one that thinks that we're like a bunch of maybe possibly crazed people that are coming up with fanciful ideals or solutions? But I mean, we're asking you, what do you believe? What do you think?
What do I believe about what specific?
The question that you're asking us, you must have some preconceived notions about them. What do you think about it?
Personally have seen no evidence that the government is setting up concentration camps. And let's
I'll
just
be
remember.
Googling it on my iPhone
Let's
right
just
now.
remember what a concentration camp is. It's where they systematically execute people.
No,
Yes.
concentration camp simply means a place to put people. A great big place with a fence around it, guard stations and barracks in it, so
So
you
that's
can
a
put
new
people in
definition.
there.
Let me say something.
These are not unused military installations. They're brand new, freshly built, chain link fence type installations with razor wire on the top.
Let me say something. All
No.
you have to do is go on the internet and Google Rex 84.
You can Google.
Well, hold on. Wait a minute. Let me finish. Google Rex 84. Also, do your research when Oliver North went through before Congress about the Iran-Contra scandal, and during his trial, he mentioned concentration camps that were converted military bases. This is during a congressional hearing about his Iran-Contra with him and General Poindexter, Admiral Poindexter. So it's not a matter of people thinking that they're crazy, but thinking people are crazy. But I have a question for you then. If you're saying that you've not seen it, so I'm curious, do you actually think that a government, whether it's our government or any government, would not secretly exhibit behavior that they would not want the people to be aware of, that's not in the best interest of the people?
History has shown time and again that the government has hid things from people.
Okay, well, and the only reason I asked that because you said you've not seen that, it's because you've not been sensitized to it. Once you've been sensitized to the situation, for example, have you ever bought a car?
Yes.
Okay, and then all of a sudden after you buy your particular car, you start noticing that car everywhere you go,
Right.
and you've not noticed it before?
Same thing happens when you learn a new word.
Exactly.
But
So-
I take your point. But let me just get. My question was, if you believe all of these things about this government, what is the remedy you're proposing? Simply sitting around and educating yourselves, or is there some sort of forceful response that you're accountable?
We're meeting to try to develop strategies to deal with it in the best way we come up with.
The very first thing you do
We don't know what
is you
we're gonna
start studying.
We don't
and
know
learn
what
the
needed
law.
yet.
You start studying and learn the law, study and learn the history of processes people have used. There's a lot of it that starts, the Declaration of Independence summarizes some of it, but you start studying the methodology used to eliminate tyrants and tyranny from government.
You
And
study the laws
of all of those, the most terrifying and horrible of all of them is physical force.
So how do you respond when there are people in law enforcement who say that people in the sovereign movement are essentially domestic terrorists?
What else are they going to say? What else are they
They're
gonna say?
ill-informed, or they've been so sensitized to criminal behavior they think everybody's a criminal. You know what? I met a guy one time who gave me signals like, "Hey man, you know where I can get some weed?" Things like that. Asked me this. I said, "No." Why? He says, "Oh man, everybody smokes weed." My point is, to someone who lives that life, everybody is one like him. To the police who deal with thuggery constantly because they are thugs, that doesn't mean they're always illegal or unlawful thug, but they are thugs. To the police, brutal behavior is to be expected from people, especially those who aren't cut from the same cloth as everybody else, who've become to some kind of national prominence because of things like Ruby Ridge or Jerry and Joe Kane. These things create a public awareness or a public thought, I guess you'd say, which the police so easily adopt to their own purposes. These guys are bad guys over here. They bear watching at all times. They can't be trusted. But if we have given you clear evidence tonight that all of that is bogus nonsense, there are people who are beside themselves, who go nuts, who do the wrong thing, who take incorrect behaviors, who are improperly educated, who fly off the handle. But we're not them. And most people in America are not them. They are grave exceptions to the rule. Why focus your attention on them? Focus on us and what we try to do.
A lot of this stuff is being taught. And I tell people all the time, if you've never seen anything but wrong, you don't even know what right is, okay? You'll think that's right after time. People learn through spaced repetition, okay? Regardless of what it is, you know, you see it and you see it and you see it and you see it, and after a while it's right. Even in training, I'm a graduate of Lexington Police Academy, my wife and I, and we did that back about probably the early 90s, about the mid-90s anyway. And during that time, and I was the only one in there that thought, there was some other blacks in there, but I was the only one that thought it was wrong for them, in all the training, they always portrayed the blacks as the criminals, and the white police officers was the law enforcement, was making sure these, you know, even the targets they shot at in training, they're black targets. You know, you condition a person's mind when you do that kind of stuff.
Well, a lot of it too. I mean, it's these meetings. You can go into all these specifics and stuff, but the gist of the underlying thing, it's waking people up to actually not be going through life as the living dead. You know, it'll actually let you go ahead and open your eyes and go do the research yourself. Like right here on my phone, I pulled it up. Ventura's camera crew is actually videoing the place, and you can see it for yourself, and then you can go do your own research when you go home, right? Go on YouTube, take a look for yourself, whether it's that's happening. But what happens is when you become aware and you start seeing what's happening, and then you come to these types of groups, or you go to attorneys, or you go and you find answers to these solutions, it allows each person to then become self-sufficient with handling and doing a quality control check on their own lives right now. And then when shit hits the fan, I can guarantee you people will be starting to clamor together because they've kind of known that this stuff has been going on, while the, you know, as I call it, the little theatrical event that's kind of going, these distractions that are happening, there's other things going on behind the curtains that people are starting to pick up on and look the other direction and not necessarily look that way.
When the government says the sovereign citizens are a domestic terrorist movement, what's your response?
But that's not the only lie they've told.
I don't really, I honestly, I don't watch the news and stuff like that, so I don't really
This is the
go.
government saying it on their own website.
Well, that's an oxymoron to begin with.
Well, I'm not. I don't look at that kind of stuff. Like I'm too busy out there being productive and educating, and being positive influence in the environment. I don't watch reality shows and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, I don't know what they're saying. Honestly, I don't. I'm coming to these meetings and I'm listening and I'm getting the back end stuff. But whenever I look at what's on television and then I'm coming here and I'm learning. Like about these concentration camps, I'm looking at this stuff, and then I hear about this stuff happening to people that I know, and I see people losing their homes, and I see people, having all these things, being done to them, and they have no idea what the answer is.
And when it comes to losing homes, I'm a realtor, okay? And it comes to losing every list pendants I've ever seen, okay, except one, and that was mine. They start off with count one is the why they defaulted on the loan, but in count two. They say that the original note and mortgage has either been lost or misplaced. They ask the court to allow them to create new documentation so they can proceed with the loan, so they can have what they call subject matter jurisdiction. But then they never mention that again because the people are not aware, and they go ahead and foreclose on the property. Mine was one, but I had already started counting. I got it on February 1st. It was dated for February 1st. They actually mailed it to me on the 17th of February 2009. Said on February 1st, my loan balance was 0,000. But on the same paper, on February 6th, 2009, I created a new loan in the amount of $102,040.21. Okay, I had not created a new loan. I had refinanced in November of 02. My first payment came due. I signed a voided check and authorized them to debit my account, and they debited every month religiously, and there was always money there to pay it through January of 09. And like I say, they claimed they changed lenders or changed services or something. Sent me that, so I started challenging them to who signed that loan because I didn't sign it. Anybody can pay off my loan, but nobody can take out a loan in my name, okay?
You're losing everyone on the details, just so you know.
Okay, well, I'm not trying to lose. You're trying to follow up
Well,
after
the
me.
gist of his things were not done properly, is my guess.
Yeah, the gist
And
of
so
everything,
the
they
only
file a
way that-
list pendants on
But
me.
the only way that anyone would know that it wasn't done properly was someone can come to this meeting and go,
Right.
maybe, let me go talk to an attorney about this. And I did that. No, and then they actually can show me, now how is this process supposed to be done? Explain it to me. And then the attorney
Can
will
I just
explain it to me.
refocus it? I just want to give you guys a chance because we interviewed a major law enforcement official today who said the sovereign movement is domestic terrorism. So I just want to give you a chance to
No,
respond to that.
really? It's more like
I'm gonna say this. I worked in law enforcement, and how can a group of people that are merely trying to get those same people that call them terrorists to do their job according to the law be terrorists? That makes no sense. That defies logic in and of itself. However,
You got more terrorists
however,
wearing
if you-
blue uniforms than you
however-
ever have outside. in my opinion.
However,
The law enforcement is the terrorists.
however, if you have an objective, and the objective is to intimidate and stop people from waking up and take advantage of their rights and their laws, then that kind of nonsense makes sense. You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah, people are trying to say everything's A-okay, just like that cruise ship, right? Everything's A-okay, just an electrical failure.
Right.
And guys, whenever your common sense is telling you something's not working, right? There's no right and wrong. There's what works and what doesn't work, and whatever the heck's going on right now isn't working for a lot of people.
But the thing is, when you have, you're right. But in this case, there is a right or wrong because the law says it's done this way. And if you're over here doing anything other because you have an objective, if it's taking people's homes through hook or crook or wherever you want to do, then there is a right or wrong. There's a way to do it, and then there's a way. And if you're not doing it this way, then anything else you do is illegal. So if you have
over here, I'd actually said something before. I didn't give you a chance to finish. You said, sir, over there, you said something was an oxymoron.
A sovereign citizen is an oxymoron.
What do you mean by that?
Well, sovereign means you're a king, and citizen means you're a slave. So how can it be?
So what is the sovereignty movement then, in your view?
Who's calling it that?
I don't know. Well, I mean, I can tell you. Sorry, I shouldn't have said I don't know. The federal government calls it that. I hear people in the movement say the word sovereign.
Who is the federal government?
I would say that the government is wrong,
So.
and the government must understand what sovereignty is, and that we are the commanders of our government. The United States citizens, we are the commanders, and the government works for us. And whoever said that to you needs a lesson in constitutionality.
Excuse me, may I make another observation here?
Yes.
You see, look, people in government are not government. Okay? There are individuals who do jobs in government, and some of those individuals wrote a report because somebody above them said, write this report. Sovereign citizens are evil. We're scared of them. Look out. That's what they said. Why? Because they read the court cases and they see examples of people who claimed they were sovereign citizens committing crimes, and they arrest them, try them, convict them, and put them in jail, come to the conclusion, people who say they're sovereign citizens, we better look out for them because there's at least one stripe of them that are evil and that are dangerous. Well, that means that anybody who believes, A, that sovereignty flows from him to government in a republic, and that he is a citizen, meaning he has responsibilities to maintain that republic and to do his civic duties, he is now a criminal in the mind of certain people in government who deal with people who call themselves sovereign citizens. My point is, you're dealing with apples and oranges. There are people doing good things like we do, which is trying to learn the law, become educated, not become educated bozos, learn the truth, not patriot mythology, and employ these truths in exercising our civic responsibilities to keep government honest and make them, the government actors, have integrity. And there are other people in society who, under the color of such behavior, decide that a militia just isn't good enough. We need to go rob a bank because the man has his money there, or something, some craziness.
So you'll admit there are people associated with this movement who have committed unjust.
Crazy
there are
stuff.
evil bankers
just like
that
there's
destroy
police
the
officers
reputations
too
of banks.
that there's
Evil.
bad ones, and I tell this to I've had a lot of residents, and they always say, I hate the police, I hate this, I hate that, and I look at them and I say, and when someone's crawling through your window and robbing you, who's the first person you call? I'm like, don't say that. I go, there might be some, in every single group there's always bad eggs and good eggs, or bad eggs and good eggs. But I mean, as a whole, just being aware of your surroundings and waking up and seeing what's going on. And yes, when you do start researching this stuff, because I would have never turned that page or looked behind that curtain unless I had shown up to one of these meetings, right? To look. But when you start looking and you start digging, you start getting emotional. Because you're like, I've been asleep for this long, you know. Wow.
Asleep to what?
Asleep to, you know.
Reality.
Yeah, to things that, because I never thought that these police things would happen to people until they start happening.
I never thought.
And then all of a sudden, I'm getting
me.
phone calls, you know, over
That
the years, all of a
crossed my
sudden
mind.
these things are happening to people that I know, would never, do bad things and
This
let
leads to the reality
Or
that the government's out of control, or what's the reality?
that there's things going on that we're not being told about.
We moving to a police
All right,
state.
let me-
We are
Let me-
definitely moving toward a
Let me
police
say
state.
this. Let me say this. I had a
For
lady,
sure.
I had a lady that worked with me at City Court. She's German, and this was in 2006, 2007, and she's about my age. She's about 54. And I remember we were talking one day, and she said that right now in this country, she's afraid. I said, "What are you afraid of?" The same identical things, the same laws, the same environment, the same everything. It's just like in Germany before the Nazis took over Germany. Now this is a German that came and said the same. So when you say a government out of control, here you have someone that's a German citizen that's now a United States citizen saying this government, this environment is starting to look like my home did before this happened. It's just like Bonnie said. You get a feel, you get a sense of something's not quite right.
Looking, you're gonna start seeing it. And
When you
it's
get-
very weird.
The more you look at 9/11, the more you realize it's something there that's not right. I don't know what it is, but it's something with
But it's
that.
like Bonnie
It's
said,
terribly wrong.
if you had
And that
this-
was an inside job, I do believe. I will always believe, just from my own personal research.
It's
This
like
stuff
saying
that
that
just
everybody
doesn't make
that's
sense.
a
Just does
sovereign
not add up.
citizen is a criminal. It's like saying then, based
lawyers
upon the
are
police, or the
Huh?
police that beat him up, then every police is a criminal.
So Joe and Jerry Kane, there's videotape of Joe Kane getting out of that car, firing the gun. Do you believe that they were set up? Falsely
Here's what I
accused?
believe. And I believe this because of the testimony of Donna Lee Ray, who is Jerry Kane's alleged common law wife. That's what she claims. She did as much of an analysis on the incident as she could. She requested the tapes of the dashboard cameras video, and it took them more than a month and a half to get them to her. And when she got them and viewed them, they showed a different. They demonstrated that in comparison to the news videos that were taken by the news crews who showed up on the scene after the incident, that the vehicles from the dashboard cameras were in different locations from what they were in the newsreel. What does that tell you?
So you think that the whole thing was fake?
They doctored the video. They created new video, put actors in them, and made them do this. Here, the FedEx driver driving down the highway that saw the initial shooting of those officers on the highway claimed there are two Hispanic men shooting at killing these cops.
Why would they do that? Why would
Listen
they doctor
to
the
what
video?
I'm saying.
Man,
don't
And
know.
that
I mean,
they
there's all
drove
kinds
a
of-
white van with an orange roof. Joe and Jerry Kane had a white van with a white roof, and they were a mile and a half away. You have to ask yourself, why would the FedEx driver make such a statement when these two guys are obviously Caucasians, they're not Hispanic at all? And when they didn't have a vehicle with an orange roof, why would the SWAT team jump in and murder them and destroy any opportunity for these people to rebut the charges against
It's
them?
an elaborate thing to do. You're saying they staged a video with a 16-year-old hopping out of a car, firing and
That's
killing.
right, they got actors, they reenacted the scene, and they did it in the wrong location,
Why?
which gave away the scam.
Why? Why would they do that?
Because they had murdered Joe and Jerry Kane. And they're going to have to cover this up somehow or make it look justified.
In my case, and it wasn't nothing seriously, it wasn't remotely nothing on that scale. There was 7 police cars out there. They all supposed to activate those dash cameras when they activate the emergency lights. There was 7 police cars out there, and not a single one of them had a camera on.
Do you think Joe and Jerry Kane were murdered and that the allegations that they killed police are false?
Yes?
I don't know that
I
much
believe
about
that
that particular case.
100%.
When I'm talking about my
Well, we
case,
don't-
okay,
Not only that,
there was.
These are all opinions too. I mean, and just there's just something. And
But
look
you
at this.
cannot believe everything you see
Why right
in the
now
news.
would
I know that.
United States soldiers right now be breaking protocol and literally crying out to the public through the internet and everything, and letting everyone know that something's not right, that they're currently being sent to trainings for roadblocks, for doing all of this strange stuff, where these U.S. soldiers are literally going, I want people to know you've got to spread this around, because, I mean, we're being trained to do some very bizarre things, and they go, we took an oath to
Going to
uphold the
police state.
Constitution, and we just want you to
Going to
know
a
that
police
there is
state. I
something
guarantee
not
you
right
that.
going on, and we're not saying that whenever it comes down that they're going to be enforcing these strange things they're being asked to do, but they're letting it out, and they're just bringing it to people's attention to wake up.
Do you agree
know?
with this gentleman that we're heading toward a police state, possibly?
I don't know.
Everything
Don't
points to
know.
that.
I'm hoping that everyone wakes up to where everyone realizes everyone's awake, that no one would be able to get away with that. I hope that everyone wakes up fast enough, does enough research, and it spreads, because if there's enough social people realizing what's happening before it happens, I think at that point it won't be a sneak attack kind of thing. It'll be more like, everyone's kind of going, oh,
But
okay,
you
yeah.
watch these
that's
cop
happening.
shows on television and see how wrong and how far outside. But what they're doing, they're conditioning people to accept that crap. I mean, I have not seen one that was in accordance with the laws, as I understand it. And I studied pretty intensely.
Listen, I want to give you some history here.
They forced me to.
In 2006, when I began to get interested in these legal issues, you didn't hear my introduction in which I explained this starting of my investigation of loyalty oaths in Florida. But the bottom line of it is that I got involved in studying the law and observing whether people in government had obeyed the law in the most primitive sense. They swore a loyalty oath that's required by the law. And what that led me to was a disclosure that not a single person elected or appointed in government for 6 years validly held office. So now,
it's illegal for them to get paid without that oath.
What do you expect the government officials who are sitting there mulling over what to do, what decision do you think they're going to make? Are we going to overturn every judicial act in the last 6 years and release all those prisoners from jail and pay them a fee for injuring them? No. We're going to sweep it under the carpet, and that's what they did. Now, I don't take great exception to that, because my biggest worry is not whether or not they went through a technicality of swearing an oath. My worry is they will, on an individual basis, feel bound in some respect to obey that oath when under pressure. And judges get under pressure a lot, and so do police people. That's why we make them swear that oath.
This legal official that said that
So
sovereign
that's
people
what I
and
worry
stuff
about.
were domestic terrorists. What did he say that they were doing? Because I mean, from what I've seen, it's a lot of people
The
getting.
FBI has it on their webpage.
Okay.
They list sovereign citizens as
Yeah, what proof have they given? What proof did they show you that we are?
Well, this person I spoke to today was Bob Powder, who's the father of one of the cops who was killed in West Memphis, Arkansas.
You talked to him today?
Yeah.
Well, he is probably, besides being the top cop in the area, a crook, with crooked son and a crooked nephew that were taking bribes and doing various other things. Have you checked him out? Have you looked at the complaints in the community about this man and his family? Guess what? He may be just as dirty as he could be. And you're giving him a free ride and a pass and not examining his record and to see whether he has a motive to lie. Well, of course he does. He's going to make it seem like his boys were doing the right thing and they got murdered. Well, maybe they were. But maybe they didn't get murdered by Joe and Jerry Kane, and he has intentionally worked to cover this fact up. Instead of trying to accuse Hispanic drug runners of killing them, they accuse Joe and Jerry Kane, who are totally innocent.
Did you
Now,
research this?
What's the motive for this? Who cares the motive? The cop lied.
Right. But you were saying something, sir.
No, I was just asking you, what proof did this law enforcement officer give to you that to make his claim that the sovereigns are a domestic terrorist group?
His argument is sovereigns don't believe that the laws of the nation
No,
apply
I asked
to
for
them.
what
How does he know what they believe?
proof? I asked him
He
proof.
points to
Did he
incidents.
give you documentation? Did he show you some
That's an
information?
opinion, you know?
That's exactly his opinion. Exactly.
He points to incidents of violence committed by sovereign citizens,
So what violence? and what
including
sovereign
the murder of
citizen?
his son.
And wouldn't that be the minority?
I mean,
of
isn't that a fair argument?
But
No,
you
I don't
can't.
think
No,
that's
I
fair.
think- I think
Why
it's
not?
the
You can't
minority.
cluster
No,
upon
just
one person.
Just what she said. Just because of one incident, isolated incident, that you're going to lay this claim on
Exactly.
all sovereigns throughout the United States?
Exactly.
No, that's
And you
not
got
correct.
no real
So
proof.
the message you would
called labeling.
the message you would give is that just because a few crazy people have done crazy things doesn't mean this movement needs to be feared.
And just because somebody said it was a sovereign, So it's not
May
even
we,
what's stopping.
may we
Yeah, it's more
not
of an
interrupt? I
awakening,
mean, that's
and
one of the
it's
problems
not-
we're having here tonight. I've been sitting here quietly,
been very
listening,
quiet.
and just observing. And constant interruption, that's one of the problems. You get disconnected here. You know, I get a little passionate, but let's have some respect for one another so we can share, okay? One of the things I would like to say, I'm a very strong constitutionalist. I have been for years. And I, in this Pinellas County area, have conducted numerous classes on instructing and teaching the law of this land, which is not being taught in any schools. And that's all by design, but I'm not going to go down that road. But that's what we need to get back to. Bob is right. We need to educate. That's what I've been trying to do on my own, along with my family, doing that very same thing.